Everybody loves to hype up Washington, D.C. The power, the prestige, the cherry blossoms, the brunch scene. But let me tell you what it's really like living here. Because the truth is, this city is not for everybody. I've worked with people who moved here chasing opportunity, and 6 months later, they were already on their way out. So today, I'm pulling back the curtain. Not the tourist version of D.C., but the real everyday version. The traffic, the costs, the politics, the things nobody puts on Instagram. These are the top 10 reasons people regret moving to Washington, D.C. And if you're even thinking about living here, you really need to see this first. So let's dive right in. Let's start with the one that hits people the fastest. The cost of living in DC is no joke. Everything in DC is expensive. And I don't just mean the homes, though, yes, the average price tag on a row house in a decent neighborhood is easily over $700,000. And that's not a luxury townhouse. It's likely a 2-bedroom row house with possibly dated finishes and a postage stamp backyard. Renting a decent 1-bedroom can run you $2,500 to $3,000 a month in a central area like Logan Circle or DuPont. But it doesn't stop there. Want to take your dog to daycare? $50 a day. A regular Target run just for the basics? That'll set you back $120 before you even reach the checkout. A week of groceries for two? $180 if you're lucky. Childcare, easily $2,000 a month. Want to park downtown for dinner? That's $38 for the garage or a $45 ticket if you don't read the signs correctly. And trust me, those signs, they are designed to confuse you. And don't even think about Uber Eats unless you're ready for a $30 smoothie and a $9 delivery charge. Even small luxuries feel like splurges. Pilates class, $38. Weekend brunch with a drink? Don't be shocked when your tab is pushing around $60 a person. Unless your income can easily absorb it, or you're bringing in some remote money from a lower cost market, you'll start to feel the squeeze pretty fast. And if you have kids, like I do, just multiply everything. It's not that you can't make it work, don't get me wrong. People do, but there is no such thing as a cheap month here in DC. Next up, let's talk about the traffic here because it will test your sanity. If you think you can just drive around and avoid the pain, think again. DC traffic is in a league of its own. We're talking the top 5 worst in the nation according to INRIX, and for good reason. Rush hour here starts around 2:33 and lasts till after dinner. What looks like a short 10-minute drive on the map can easily turn into a 35-minute crawl between the traffic circles, the one-way streets, construction zones, pop-up road closures for motorcades, that's my favorite, and the protests. It often feels like the city is trying to trap you. And the street layout, not a grid. It's more like somebody spilled spaghetti on a map and decided to make that the road system. It was actually designed after Paris, France, and although the design may be beautiful, it can be super confusing and congested. Every local relies on Google Maps or Waze, and even then, you find yourself circling the block because you missed that one legal turn onto your street. You might think, no problem, I'll just metro everywhere, which does work until you experience your first weekend service delay, midweek signal issue, or a packed red line train that just skips your stop completely. Still, it is cleaner and they say safer than many systems, but there is definitely a learning curve. Oh, and let me save you some embarrassment. Stand on the right and walk on the left on the metro escalators. Break that rule and you will feel the full wrath of a DC commuter. It's no fun. And just in case you're thinking you might drive in metro, let me tell you about the joy that is parking in DC. Street parking is heavily zoned and very confusing. One block might be zone 2, the next block might be zone 3, and both sides of the same street could have different restrictions. Metered parking ends early in some places and runs late in others. And those signs, I really think, are intentionally vague. You'll rack up those parking tickets before you even realize that you broke any rules. The city makes over $100 million a year from parking fines alone. And garage parking, expect to pay $25 to $40 for just a couple hours in a busy part of the city. It is literally not an exaggeration to say you'll spend more time looking for a great spot than you will in the place that you came to visit. And then there's the weather. which honestly is probably the most emotionally unstable part of the city. One day, it's 82 degrees and sunny. The next day, it's 30 degrees and raining sideways. And summers are brutal. They are hot and humid, and you walk outside and you feel like you're wearing the air. And while winters aren't Chicago cold by any means, DC tends to panic over snow, even if they're thinking it's gonna snow. Half an inch and everything shuts down. And I mean everything. The government, schools, which is always fun for a working parent. Grocery stores clear out like a zombie apocalypse is coming. Spring and fall here are really nice, but they last about 3 weeks each. You get the stunning cherry blossoms in the spring, and the falls here, they look like the most beautiful painting you've ever seen, with all the fields and all the colors. Fall is definitely my favorite season. The rest of the year, a toss-up. DC doesn't have 4 seasons. It has about 12 micro seasons, and they all arrive in the same month. Locals make fun of this every year. There's even a joke. If you're cold in the morning and you're sweating by noon, welcome to Washington, DC. You won't hate it, but you will talk about it constantly. Okay, let's address crime. I want to be respectful here, but also real. Some people avoid talking about it altogether. Others paint DC like it's Gotham. The truth, it's more nuanced. Yes, DC has crime, like every city. But the headlines don't always tell you the whole story. Here's what most people don't hear. According to the U.S. Attorney's Office, violent crime in DC dropped 35% in 2024, with armed carjackings down 53% and robberies down 39%. These are the lowest levels in over 30 years. And my source is justice.gov. Still, crimes are hyper-local. One block feels fine, and the next block makes you want to cross the street. It's not about avoiding the city. It's about knowing where you are and being smart. Yes, some areas have higher incidence of theft or property crime, just like any major city. But the overall trend is improving. My advice: don't just Google, is DC safe? Look into specific zip codes and talk to people who live there. Another thing that really surprises people is that the work culture here, it's really intense. It's not just that people work hard, they lead with their job titles. At any given happy hour, you'll hear something like, I clerked for the Second Court, I'm on the Hill, I run policy for a green tech startup. And if you don't work in politics, law, or advocacy, it can feel awkward. People here are ambitious and they're driven and deeply invested in what they do, which is great. But it also can mean that social events can feel like job interviews. Even dating apps, I've been told, are full of acronyms. DOJ, DOD, Hill Staffer, JD, MBA. Everyone's doing something impressive, and everyone expects you to do something equally impressive. It's energizing. And it can also be exhausting. If you're not in the political or legal bubble, you might just feel left out. And even if you are, sometimes you just want to talk about something other than work. But good luck finding someone who isn't checking their email at the dinner table. Okay, let's talk about schools for a minute. If you have kids, here's something to plan carefully. DC has a few standout and public charter schools, but they are competitive. You often need to either win the lottery or buy into a pricey neighborhood to get access to these top-rated options. Otherwise, you might be looking for a private school. And private school here means $40,000 to $50,000 per kid. It's more than college in some states. And switching schools mid-year or moving across boundaries, that comes with its own maze of applications, wait lists, and bureaucracy. Education is absolutely doable here, but it does take planning, money, or a lot of luck. Okay, now let's talk about something that most people do not talk about until after they've moved here. This city is not always so polished looking as it appears on Instagram. The tourist areas, well, they tend to be pristine, but everyday neighborhoods, they can be hit or miss. You might see cracked sidewalks, litter, overfilled trash cans, and yes, rats. DC consistently ranks in the top 10 for rodent activity in the US. Proud moment. Is that true of every street? No, of course not. But it is common enough that the locals do talk about it. And when the city budget prioritizes big events and federal space over residential upkeep, you tend to feel it. If you're hoping to find your forever community here in DC, here's a heads up. DC can be very socially transient. People come here for a few years, make their mark, and tend to move on. It's a city full of contracts, fellowships, elections, appointments. So your neighbors, they might be amazing, but they also might be gone in 18 months. You can absolutely build a community here. I don't want to mislead you. Neighborhoods like Capitol Hill or Petworth have very tight-knit community vibes, but it takes effort. And finally, here's something that's happening right now that's reshaping the very fabric of DC. The massive reduction in federal jobs and contracts. Historically, Washington, DC has been insulated from economic downturns, largely due to the stability provided by federal employment. However, recent administrative actions have led to unprecedented job cuts. In the first quarter of 2025 alone, over 275,000 federal employees and contractors have been laid off, with more reductions anticipated. This downsizing has not only affected those directly employed by the federal government, but also has a ripple effect on local businesses and services that depend on federal spending. The economic impact is profound. The city's chief financial officer projects a potential loss of 40,000 federal jobs and over $1 billion in lost revenue over the next 3 years. The financial strain is evident in various sectors. Real estate. There has been a notable increase in home listings, with a 56% rise compared to the previous year, surpassing the national increase of 28%. This surge is attributed to federal layoffs and funding cuts, causing many to delay their home search. Now, I don't want you to get me wrong. Parts of DC are very hot and still a competitive seller's market. But in my opinion, I think the condo market in DC has never fully recovered since the pandemic, and it's only gotten even more softer with everything that's happening. Local businesses, restaurants, retail stores, and service providers are experiencing a decreased patronage as consumer confidence wanes amidst job insecurity. Then you've got public services. With reduced tax revenues, the city faces challenges in maintaining public services, potentially leading to cuts in essential programs and infrastructure projects. For potential residents, this evolving economic landscape means navigating a city in transition. While opportunities still exist, it's crucial to stay informed and consider how these changes might impact your personal and professional life in DC. So should you never move to Washington, DC? Of course not. It's an incredible city filled with wildly beautiful, fascinating people, powerful careers, stunning moments. I was born in DC and I grew up going between DC and Maryland, and I love this city. But it is not for everyone, and it's not always what it seems from the outside. If you come prepared, come informed, and come with a plan that includes more than just a few fun brunch spots. Although brunch in DC is really fun. If this helped you think differently, hit like. And if you're still on the fence, drop a comment. And if you want to know where to move instead of DC, that one, well, it's coming up next. I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. I do appreciate it. Bye!